In 2021, the CDC estimated that about 38.4 million people in the United States had diabetes. At the time, that made up about 11.6% of the United States population. My goal for today is to share with you a little bit of a brief history covering insulin, its use in treating type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and some of the side effects associated with the cure for sugar sickness. Now, knowing what you know about today's modern medical environment, try and think back to a time when none of our current treatments existed. Yes, we are going back to the early 19th century when bloodletting and opium prescriptions ran rampant. Bloodletting and opium prescriptions were really the only two ways that we would try and treat most sicknesses, which included diabetes. However, there was a third way of treating diabetes, which included fad diets. Those diets usually included binge eating, decreasing carbohydrate levels, increasing fat levels, and actual starvation. Yeah, a lot of people, in attempts to control their blood sugar levels, would end up eating less and less to the point where they would actually starve themselves. It really wasn't until the latter third of the 19th century that we figured out that the pancreas was our problem organ when it came to diabetes. And we can thank Ozark Manowski and Joseph Mering for their findings on how diabetes and the pancreas were in fact connected. Manowski and Mering also did a short experiment after their discovery in which they would take crude pancreatic fluid from a pig and input it into a human. Don't do that. It is completely toxic because they are different species, and it is not a good idea because it can cause infection and just bad going on for the human being involved. Shortly after publishing their findings about diabetes and the pancreas both being connected, and their experiment, Frederick Banting and Charles Beets from the University of Toronto were intrigued, and they conducted a similar experiment in which they took crude pancreatic fluid from a pig and inputted it into another pig, a pig with diabetes to be exact. And in their experiments, they found some success in expanding the life frame of the pig with diabetes. This was exciting at the time because it actually meant that there could be a cure for diabetes. However, because all of this was new and people have been suffering with diabetes for a long time, there was bound to be some fraud on the market. And in order to curb this fraud, the University of Toronto created the Insulin Committee, which held strict control over all insulin being made. However, they could only keep it up for so long because the production of insulin just went up in price and the expiration date was getting closer for their patent. So they knew things needed to change quickly if they wanted to keep insulin pure and available for human treatment, which led to the development of non-animal derived insulin, which nowadays is proven to be safer, purer, and holds to a better standard of insulin than animal derived insulins. Now, you may be sitting there and wondering, nice history lesson, but what even is insulin? Well, insulin is a natural occurring hormone in our body created in our pancreas. The main purpose of insulin is to help our cells break down and convert sugar into energy. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease in which insulin is not made in our pancreas at all. In fact, it's not even there whenever they're born. So it's something that they need treatment for since birth. And type 2 diabetes is one in which it's a sickness in which our tolerance to insulin increased to an amount where our pancreas just, one, doesn't produce it anymore, or two, produces it but does not use the insulin properly. A lot of severe cases of type 2 diabetes use similar insulin treatments to type 1 diabetics. However, minor treatments for type 2 diabetes can use oral medications to try and curb high blood sugar levels. Now, most common treatments with insulin are injectables. They're syringes or pumps, as my beautiful illustration shows. However, with new developments in technology, we are looking at having rapid-acting insulin become inhalable. Speaking of rapid-acting insulin, there are three main categories that insulin injectables fall into. There's rapid-acting, which is what inhalable insulin will fall into. It works within 5 to 10 minutes of administration and it lasts for 3 to 5 hours. Then we have regular acting. It activates about 30 to 45 minutes after administration and it lasts for 5 to 8 hours. And then we have long-lasting acting, and it works an hour after administration and lasts for a full 24 to 48 hours. The best places for injection tend to be either the upper arms, the belly, but 2 inches away from the belly button, the upper thighs, or the upper buttocks. The more fatty areas of the body with more muscle tend to be better injection sites. Now, common side effects of insulin are edema, which is a swelling of the feet and water retention, weight gain, the swelling and lumpy parts where we get swelling at injection sites, and we get low blood sugar. You are not supposed to have low blood sugar when you have insulin treatments. In fact, it is actually a sign that you are taking too much insulin, and you should talk to your doctor if you are having low blood sugar at all during insulin treatment. And the best way to avoid scarring or lump at injection sites is to rotate your injection sites to around your body in attempts to avoid lumps or scarring. We also want to check out for any possible allergic reactions. Now, I believe I read that only about 3% of the United States population is allergic to insulin, but it never hurts to check out for signs such as rashes, hives, anaphylaxis. If you suspect that you were allergic to insulin, you need to call your doctor or call somebody for help immediately. It is not something to mess around with. We do not want a repeat of the 19th century in which our treatments end up hurting people. But yeah, throughout history, our insulin was a mystery to a lot of us, and just the general what's wrong with the human diabetics was a mystery to us. But with the thanks of modern day technology and medicine and just curious minds, we are able to figure out how to properly treat diabetes and common side effects to look out for when it comes to administering insulin. I'm personally thankful for modern day technology when it comes to type 1 diabetics, people who otherwise would have suffered if it wasn't for curious minds and just treatments available now. However, for type 2 diabetes and diabetes that happen due to just intolerance, I believe it is better to act as prevention rather than a cure. And we need to do better by today's standards to create a healthier environment for people to eat and exist and not have as much manufactured goods on our tables. Thank you for listening today.